Hey, Singer Unified. Welcome to this week's Online Learning PD series, where we're going to talk through a portion of the Distance Learning Playbook. Your copy of the book should have already been delivered. As a reminder, we've gone through kind of a virtual book study of the different modules. Module 1, Take Care of Yourself, we've weaved throughout. Module 2 is on Sanger Learns. It is called Online Learning 2.0. Then we had several weeks of modules 3, 4, and 5, where we kind of chose a different portion of each one and put out a video. I will show you at the end where they all are. Today, we're going to focus on engaging tasks, which is module 6. Before we get into that, just keeping in mind, this goes along with module 1, the Take Care of Yourself. This is a tough time, and this could be considered a traumatic event, depending on how closely the pandemic has affected you, your family, your students, and their families, and the community. So just keep in mind that, quote unquote, the body keeps score, and we need to allow ourselves some time to, we're going to allow ourselves some time. You know what I'm saying. So on to module 6, engaging tasks. When we talk through engagement, we wanted to talk about the different dimensions of engagement. So there's behavioral engagement, whether they're following the rules, completing assignments, answering and asking questions during the conversations or the discussions. There's also cognitive engagement, which is like their psychological effort. Are they trying to challenge themselves? Are they self-regulating and using monitoring tools? There's the metacognition of evaluating one's thinking. So how are they doing that? And then the emotional engagement, and that's how students are feeling. Whether in a group situation they're participating, whether they're interested, inquisitive, they're curious about what's happening in the classroom, or they're kind of like checked out. Within that, there's also kind of this continuum of engagement. Right in the middle is just a passive. And then to the left-hand side of the screen, we have active engagement, but a disengagement. So whether it's withdrawing and being distracted, looking for ways to avoid work or off-task behavior, to outright disruption. And then on the right side, we move into more levels of actual engagement. So participating, paying attention, responding to questions, if they're invested in what they're learning and asking questions, and then moving to driving. And that's especially when we talk through with our Universal Design for Learning and the students' goal setting and self-assessing, that's what we're aiming for. So of course, even within each student and within each class session, they might be kind of going back and forth on this continuum of engagement, but we are aiming for that participating, investing, and then finally the driving. So it kind of boils down to, can your students answer these questions? What am I learning? Why am I learning it? And then how will I know I learned it? Within our PLCs, we want to talk through the tools and tasks that we're using for the different strategies and assessments and assignments that we're doing, but keeping in mind that the purpose of the task should determine the tool, not the other way around. There's a lot of cool websites and platforms and technology tools out there, but don't just use them for the sake of using them. We've never done that before in Sanger. We don't want to start now. It's tempting because there's so much out and about, but really make sure that whatever tool that you're choosing, it is meant for that task. And with that, you can choose a few tools. Do not choose all the tools. Choose ones that work for you, for the purpose of the task itself, and then allow the students to choose between them. And if that means one, that's fine. If it means two, great. But we would not suggest using any more than like 3 to 5 for any one thing. We'll talk in a little bit about specific tasks and the purpose of them, and then what tools might lend themselves better to those. But just in general, you do not need to choose all the tools. Same thing that we've always said with Universal Design for Learning. Do not have choices for the sake of choices. Make sure that they capture the non-negotiables, capture what you need the tools to do, and then have just a couple. So here are some different functions. We have finding information up at the top, using information, creating information, and sharing information. And this all comes from Module 6 in the book. They provide some different examples for sample tools, but we put on the side here just some logos for the tools that we specifically use. So whether you're a learning management system like Canvas or Google Classroom or Seesaw, and then even within those, whether you're using some of the Google suite of apps like Google Docs, Google Slides, etc., using Remind to communicate information, but also that finding information isn't just like a research, it's being able to have the students find whatever their assignments are, so how they're finding the information for their tasks. And then to creating or sharing information, or kind of a more of the formative assessment, there's the Screencastify. So whether teachers and PLCs are making videos or the students are watching those videos from Screencastify, Kahoot or quizzes or any of the myriad of websites that are out there, ClassKick, Flipgrid. So there's a lot out there. We didn't necessarily put one of these in each of the categories because even in this example, you can see that there's some tools, some platforms that really could help for each of these different functions or tasks. So what it comes down to is answering these questions within your PLC. Do you guys have a tool for whether you're video recording for lessons or directions, having some sort of forum for students to discuss, whether that's in a Canvas discussion or on the Google feed, student work submission, so how they're submitting work, whether that's taking a screenshot and posting it to Seesaw, or they're doing their assignment on Canvas. Some sort of feedback tool, and try to keep in mind that that doesn't necessarily just have to be teacher to student. We want it to also be student to student and having some sort of peer feedback, and that could have been within the discussion tool. Formative and summative assessment, and then some tool for individual and small group meetings. The small group meetings, you could use a Zoom breakout room, you could use a Google Meet with just some students invited, etc. Some specific engagement strategies that we learned from a webinar as well as from the book. One of them that we really liked was a chat flurry. So sometimes there is the situation where a teacher has posed a question and students start to answer in the chat, and you know who they are. There are some students who just kind of sit back and wait. I'm actually one of those that I don't want to be the first one to respond for fear that it is incorrect or I've misunderstood. So I just kind of hang out and then have some confirmation when another student or participant has submitted their answer, and then I'll feel more confident and send it. So not to say that we want to have our students, be anxious about it, but we do want to have both wait time and allow for students to have a genuine conversation with what they genuinely thought. So a chat flurry, the teacher poses the question and the students type in their answer into the chat, but they don't press send yet. And don't do it quick, like have some time, have that think time so that students have a chance to think about what they want to say, especially for all of our learners, making sure that there is wait time and think time so that they can process what they want to say and then put it into their words. And then however you want to do it, count down from 3, say ready, set, go, but everyone presses send at the same time, and then you get a chance to read each other's responses. Another engagement strategy are special tasks for certain days. So in the webinar that we went to, there were Watch Me Wednesdays. So a time for a demo or to submit or review video feedback. And that could be that peer video feedback. And video is very easy within Canvas and within Seesaw. Within Google, they would just attach something from their Google Drive. They also had Teach Back, and it might have been Tuesdays, but Teach Back Tuesdays, Teach Back Thursdays, where students, in order to review a topic, part of their asynchronous time was to teach that topic to their family members. As an aside, the authors of the book were talking about how hopefully one of the unintended consequences of this, and a side consequence that is actually positive, is just increasing fluency and education throughout the community, because now students are learning in the homes with their parents and siblings. Lastly, these slides come directly from the authors of the book. But thinking through designing tasks with engagement in mind, there are some page numbers listed. So when you have your book within your PLC, if you wanted to kind of skim through those pages. Thinking through multiple perspectives, and we've always thought this when it comes to that clear goal but loose means. So thinking from closed tasks to open tasks. Also thinking through low floor, high ceiling, and access point for all. Going from just acquiring the information to gaining understanding and actually applying that. So whether that is comparing and contrasting, identifying rules and patterns, developing metaphors, and these all come from the South Australia Department of Education, because John Hattie, one of the authors of the book, works at the University of Melbourne. Asking students what they think first rather than telling them what they will need. Moving from procedures to problem solving. And that's all for this session. So engaging tasks is module 6. We encourage you to always have engagement in mind. This comes as no surprise when we talked through Universal Design for Learning. Engagement was always that first one. So those same methods and strategies and conversations that we've had around engagement for Universal Design for Learning, we need to remember those in an online learning with either the hybrid model or the full distance learning. So thinking through choices, but not too many, thinking through whether we can have collaboration and group work or small groups in a breakout setting, and thinking through the ability for students to kind of choose how they're going to consume the information and process the information. Thinking through also, I know that you use that term a bazillion times, I apologize, but with the tools, that those options for the tools, but just that they're available and that you take time to teach how to use the tool sometimes. We never want the tool to be that enduring concept, but sometimes they do need to just play with a fun concept to learn a new tool. And lastly, this is where everything is housed on Sanger Learns. So if you go to Sanger Learns, scroll down to where it says teachers and staff. And then everything will be housed here on the Sanger Unified Online PD series. And again, it all comes from the Distance Learning Playbook. Thanks, guys.